A theoretical session. So CESS is one of the components that we propose under this program. So what I'm going to do is share some of the results that we obtained after installing CESS, and what is the outcome from this component. So to remind, give a brief overview. So we talked about CESS in last workshop. So just to give you a brief overview what we have done or proposed. So CESS is a cloud short for Cloud-Enabled Security Service. So this is proposed as security as a service, similar to software as a service or application as a service, something like this. So it will allow the network security providers to provide security services from the cloud. So that is the original idea. So because we know there are various advantages of cloud services, so we also have those advantages here as well. So it will be cost effective, scalable, you require less maintenance because it is centralized, and we can replace some of the on-premise equipments that are used to provide security services in different areas. So this was our proposed architecture. So here we have the CESS, and we connected to the internet. And on this side, these are different entities of the users. So in this case, the entities are the different educational institutions. So this is because this is proposed for NRANs. So the idea was it will be installed in BD2 or IDN Malaysia, right? And so that the service can be provided to all the universities centrally. So this is our proposed idea. So, and this is also, so in our project, because of the budgetary issues, so what we propose is that we'll set up the CESS in BD2 only, not in other NRANs due to the budget constraints. So this was our proposed network for the miscellaneous project. So let's look at what we did in this project. So in terms of installation and data analysis. So the product that we used is Cisco Web Security Appliance. It's also called Cisco WSA. So the reason for choosing Cisco WSA because of we have dependency with BD2. It is supposed to be installed in BD2 because BD2 provides services to all the universities. So, and BD2 already has the routers and switches from Cisco. So we chose this product from Cisco as well. So the model we used was S600B. It uses SNCOS as the operating system. It was deployed in a VMware ESXi. So the disk size for the OS we use 1000 GB, RAM was 24 GB, and there was 12 cores in the processor, and it was deployed in the BD2 cloud. So, so the process is very straightforward. So we have to prepare the low-level diagram. Then we have to install the OS in the VM. Then we have to install the license keys that we received from the Cisco. And we have to perform the configuration how we want to filter the data based on different security parameters. So this is the network architecture that we used to install. So this is the current network of BD2. So these are different routing institutions. We have the core routers, and we have the firewalls, core switch, and this is the cloud. So the problem that we faced, our original proposal was to install the CESS before the core router. So that was original idea, and because it will be the central point. However, the BD2 cloud was not before the core router, so the cloud was connected on the side of the core router, and the client routers was on the other side. So we have to, because we have to install in the cloud, we have to set it up here. So what that gives us, so we have to use this path to reach the client. So the problem of this scenario is that in this path we have to process double bandwidth, because packet goes once and it returns back. So which created problem after we deployed. So anyway, so we deployed in this scenario, and we faced some challenges during this installation. So the first problem was we didn't have the low-level diagram, and the diversion, as I said, because we had to set it up in the cloud, the diversion of traffic to this cloud was very problematic, and also because of the large volume of data. Because we didn't also provide, so we have to ensure the normal traffic didn't hamper. So we had to test a lot of things. And Cisco requires WCCP support in this software, so that is also another thing we need to consider. So once we deployed the software, so there was various issues came up. So we faced the system hangs after a couple of days over and over. That was one of the big issues. And another issue was because Cisco does not have technical support locally, so they have support from India. So it was very difficult to get the support in due time. So it actually took us almost 2 months to solve all the problems that we had. So after, I think in August, August 2019, we were able to set up our license. So this is some of the steps. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to show you, we captured data using the CESS to do kind of malwares, viruses. I'm going to show you different statistics that we have received in the last 4 months. Okay. So average transactions is 273 per second and 23.5 millions per day. Transaction means the number of packets that will be processed through this CESS. So the maximum transaction that we got in one of the periods, 730 and 49.1 million. And average bandwidth used was 27 Mbps, but we have a hike on 1.2 Gbps during the attack scenarios. We have maximum connection of 33,000 in one attack scenarios, and total I think we have user count means basically unique IP addresses. So we have so far 217,000 unique IP identified by the system. So these are some of the statistics on different IPs. So some of the IPs and their bandwidth that these IPs used. So bandwidth basically, from the request and response. That's how it is calculated. So top IPs are from France. There's some from Germany and also some IPs from US. This is the top 10 we are showing here. So also later we will see these are actually also the IPs or the attacks originated from. So because the regular traffic it passes through, there are many other users. In that the attack traffic is much more compared to the regular traffic. So they have significance in data. This is the total transactions. So this was in terms of bandwidth, and this is transaction, how many connections this IP actually opened in our system. So we have the maximum of 20.7 million packet or connection created by this one of these IPs. So this was the basic statistics. So what we wanted to look at, how the system actually filter packets, how it can identify different malwares or viruses. So to do this, what CESS does, it uses a component called web reputation filter. So the idea behind this is that whenever a new request comes in, based on the IP address, the system calculates a reputation score, which is from -10 to +10. And based on this score, there are many things how they calculate. The algorithm is not open, but what they say, it could be, it is dependent on the domain owner, hosting server where it is hosted, how many years the server is alive, the type of site. There are many other parameters they use to calculate this particular reputation. So based on this, they either block a particular request, or they will allow it, or they can deliver it with a warning. So it could be problematic. Okay, so this is the basic scenario. So in this case, our configuration was like this. So if the reputation was below -6, we block that packet, we do not deliver it to the client. If the reputation is 6 +6 to up to 10, we allow the traffic without any further action. And if anything comes in between, there is secondary level scanning. So we check further whether it actually contains any malware. So that's when that packet analysis comes in. And after that scanning, we either allow it or we will block that particular packet. So this is the basic scenario of web reputation. So based on this WRS score, we'll see. So this is the data from October 2019. So in this scenario, we saw that 11.6% of the data were blocked, which is actually 82 million transactions. And only 7.8% of data it was allowed by default. So most of the data, more than 80% of the data, it was scanned in the second level because it was between -6 to +6. Right? So and after that scanning, most of the data was actually passed as clean, but few data, 0.5% or say 323,000 of packet were blocked as malicious after analyzing the packet itself. Okay. So let's look at statistics for different months. So we have, this is the data from November. So we see a hike from 11 to 33 in this month for the block packet. So what it means, the attack is increasing over time. So, and allow is also decreasing because we have more attack packets, but we do not have the, this is decreasing because of, the number of packets that is coming in, probably the same in terms of transactions, but because we have more attack packets, the percentage is going down. For December, we saw is similar, 32%, but in January again, we saw another high, which is 48% for the blockings. So that means, if you look at the allowed packet is almost similar, 4 to 6%, 7%, but block data is increasing every month. So that means our scanning data, it is decreasing. So what we think, the reason being there is more block data is because there's more attacks into the system from this particular IP address or sites. So when we see different types of attacks, we see there's huge high, millions of data coming in a very short period of time, which allows the CESS system to identify this could be a block packet, and they continually block the future packets. So if you see the first 100,000 packets, so they pass some of the data, but once after some time they start blocking those. So next millions of data, they are automatically blocked because the reputation becomes lower and lower. So when they find it, this is like a DDoS attack or virus attack. So this is what we found in the last 4 months. So this is the summary of this type of data. So in terms of reputation, so you can see we try to show here the number of transactions in terms of millions. So as you can see, the block amount is increasing every month, and also the scan is also increasing. Right? So what it means, every month we are getting more amount of data. It's not like we have a fixed amount of data. But as the data is increasing, we are seeing more attacks data is coming in compared to regular data. So this is for the last 4 months in terms of millions. So, and also if you look at the left side, so it's almost 1,000 million. That means the maximum block packet was almost 1 billion packets, or 1 billion transactions. So here we are showing trends for, this is for the block traffic, and this is for different months. So in the x-axis we are showing the dates of every month. So we have 4 months of data. So we're trying to see if there is any particular correlation on the dates. So unfortunately we don't see much, but there is some hikes at the end. There's hikes, so there's a huge hike in January. So this, most of the time January is quite consistent with others. But in the middle of January, I think 16 or 17, there's a huge hike on the attack data, which caused the more block packets. So this is the one of the observations that we have when there's it mostly is not like attacks from different sources at the same time. There's attacks from mostly one source on one day. There could be different sources in different days. But when the attack comes in, it's a very large attack, which causes the more transactions. In terms of malware detected, we have, again we see in January we have a huge high compared to in other days. So in other days there is also attack, but because this is too much, I think this is over 10 million. So in other days we have very less amount of, I think in the range of thousands malware detected. But because in the January you have too much volume, so the other looks very long. So in terms of volume, so this is number of data for October only. So this is malware detected. So every day, if you can see, there's 10,000 malware detected every day. We have a spike at 40,000. So this is one of the attacks that we found on 29th of October. So this is this is for the whole 4 months. This is a more inner view for the month of October. Right. So as you can see, for the month of October, we see only 40,000, which is the maximum. But in January, we see more than 10 million, which is a huge high in terms of malware detection. So this is the clean traffic comparison. So as I said, there is some block traffic, there is clean traffic. So clean traffic is also increasing in terms of time. So there is, in January we see the hike over 70 million, or yeah, 70 million. So the reason being, there is more packets coming in over the month. That means we also will have more clean traffic as well as more block traffic. But compared to each category, we are seeing more block traffic than clean traffic. So this is the allowed traffic. So allowed means the traffic that is passed by default. So the score is more than 6. Okay. So this is more or less, I think this is almost similar in every month. We do not see too much data, as I said before. So we have clean traffic with a high reputation. It's almost similar in every month in terms of volume. So if you look at the percentage, it's decreasing because of the total volume of data. But in regular scenario, on average, the volume of traffic for allowed cases are almost similar. So this is the total traffic trend for the in terms of all type of traffic, like blocked, allowed, clean. So here we also see for January there is a huge hike in the middle, which causes the total hike. But also we see December there is a hike at the end of the month. So it depends on, so the total traffic that we see depends on how much attacks are happening in one particular month. So the trend is, there is, if you look at here, there is, every month we have a hike. So in January you have 2-3 hikes for attacks. In December we have a huge hike. In November we also have a hike. In October it was normal compared to other months. So what it suggests is that once we have a system or website or web system online, so over the time, that means it is being cached by different servers, search engines, and people, the attackers will get to know this could be a possible victim, and they try to attack more and more. Yeah. So this is so as time goes on, what we suspect is that the attack trend will also go on in the higher level. So for all cases, this is the total scenarios of different 4 types of packets that we see. This is for October only. As you can see, the allowed is almost similar. Scan further is normal, and block traffic is increasing a lot. There is change in the block traffic, which is causing the total to change as well. So in terms of in the November, we also see similar trends. So for scan further, clean and detected, it's almost goes to the minimal line. But in terms of block and allowed traffic, we see different hikes in different months. So we see similar trends in December and January as well. Okay, so this is for web all traffic of reputation. So this is how, as I said, so web reputation is basically a score. So we tried to figure out what is the reputation score for different packets overall. So in here we see these are categorized into 4 categories, but we actually do not know actual web reputation for each category, because below 4 could be anything, right? It could be 3, 2, 1. So this is like a detailed view of for each scenarios how many packets are getting this scores. So for the block, so this is the block part. So from -6 to 10. So we see a lot of packets, 49, almost 50 million packets in the boundary zone, and there's this packets in upper zone. And this is the further scan size. So as you can see, because we said this -6 to -10 is blocked, so all the packets are blocked by default. And from here, there will be further scan, and it could be detected or cleaned for that. And also here we see from 6 to +6 to +10. So most of the traffic are allowed. So here's the interesting thing that we found out. So even though we said for +6, the traffic should be allowed by default, in those scenarios as well, they actually detected another scan in some cases, not all cases. So we talked to Cisco why this is happening. So what they are saying after the reputation as well, it could be because once the packet is cleaned, because reputation is focused there. So, but after that, there could be something they detected. They do the random checking of some of the packets. So if they find it suspicious, they send those IP data from those IP addresses or from this packet. So that is one of the interesting things we saw. Even if the reputation is higher, some of the traffic will pass through. And interestingly, this also we're seeing some malware is detected in those scenarios as well. So what this means is that while allowing blocking is very, it could be false negative here, but we do not care. It is blocked, it's suspicious. But if we pass it, and it is a I think it's a false positive for allowed traffic. So what it means, it can infect the user. If you're passing a malware infected traffic, and it goes to the users, that the user can be infected. So this is more dangerous scenarios when you're allowing the traffic. So that's why this is extra careful that we are scanning further to check whether this has malware infection. So these are similar trends we see for November, December, and January. So I'm going to, so this is our interesting part that I want to discuss. So this is this data between -5.9 to +5.9. So this is the region that we are scanning further by default. So most of the packets, so even though we are scanning, you can see most of the packets, these are actually clean. After second look into the packets, so the system is saying this packet is clean. And very few packets are deemed as malware detected after the scan. Okay. So this has two particular aspects. One aspect is when we are checking a lot of data, which is causing the system a lot of system resources. Right? Because when you look into the packet, it takes more resources because we are looking inside the packet. And that means because most of the these packets are clean, if you could avoid those scanning, it could have been better. Having said that, if I look at the detection, is not too much. I think this is for November we see there's data 10K, 38K, so I think 95K is the maximum. So in some cases we see 49K. So in many scenarios this is like in the amount of thousands or hundreds. But still this is important because we don't want malware package to reach the users. So that is very important. Okay. So that's why even though it may seem like okay, we are doing too much scanning to check whether this is a clean packet or whether it is a malware infected packet, because we are getting very low accuracy in terms of malware detection. But this is still very important in terms of providing security to the users. So these are different types of threats that was identified by the system. So we have basically I think 7 types of malware infection. One is botnet. We have exploit, different types of exploits. We have malicious sites that's trying to fool the user. We have malware, so malicious site and malware sites. We have phishing schemes that is allowed in the packet. We have spams that comes through emails or messaging. and also from web as well. And there's also some spyware and adware. So if you look at this clear, majority of our attack comes from malware sites and also the phishing attacks. So these are our majority attack, and we see some other attacks as well. In terms of botnet, we see very few, only 5,600 attempts of botnet was there. So the reason here is that it is extremely difficult to detect botnets. There are still a lot of research going on in detection of botnets. Because most of the botnets, they are dormant in long period. There is no clear packet communication. So it could be months before you even get one packet. So it's very difficult to identify a particular trend or particular packet format. This is a part of the problem. So usually botnet detection operation goes on for years to identify this particular botnet. So that botnet that is being detected here, these are basically well-known botnet that has been known for years by different companies. So this is data for October. We see similar data trends in November. If you can see here, this is higher data. So we have 50 million, and here we have more data. So it's over 160 million for phishing only, which was around 50 million in October. It's almost like 3 times attacks, phishing attacks that we have in October. So similar trend goes on in December as well, and also we see in January. So in January, so this is very interesting thing. So phishing attack goes down, and malware is still there, trying to communicate. And this is over almost 1,000 million. So this is because of the, as I said, so in January we had a huge attack from a couple of sources. So that was only malware attack. So if you look at closely, so in this case, the phishing we had 350 million or 160. So in this case, this goes down to I think 40 million, okay, which is a lot less. That means we did not have a large attack on phishing compared to malware sites. So this is comparing all 4 together. You have botnets. So botnets was basically similar in botnets. Also we detected more botnets in January and December. So if you can see, it's more than 600,000 in December and almost 500,000 in January. So which is a lot of rise compared to previous months. But if you look at 4 months compared to the malware side, this looks very normal. But so here we see there's a huge hike in malware sites because of one of the attacks. And also phishing goes up, but in January you see very less phishing. And in other scenarios, botnet exploits, malicious sites, spamware. These are looks to be very regular scenarios of regular attacks. This attack comes on regular basis. Okay. But this attack actually happens in particular scenarios. 1 or 2 incidents in 1 month, not every day. So 1 or 2 is in the whole month, and that gives the whole rise in that scenarios. So in terms of comparison, if you compare by transactions, so we also see, so this is for blocked only, for each month. So we see in January, because of the attack, there is more number of blocks compared to other months. So what it means, the system would be effective if there is more attacks, the system has to block more, right? So that is the scenario that we are seeing here. So in general sense, when we use a system, the system is on average this is actually normal. So you have on average say 100,000 transactions from valid users, right? But when you see that goes up from 100,000 to say 500,000, so we have additional transactions that's not supposed to happen, and those transactions could be suspicious. Okay, so that means our block ratio will go up in these scenarios. Okay, so let's see. This is for phishing only. So here we are trying to look at if these attempts goes on. So different types of attacks, do they follow any like time schedule every month? Okay, so it happens. Does it happen every first week of the month or any particular day of the month? So unfortunately, we did not find any trend. So for I think December we see a huge hike, but in some other cases there is hike in different days, but we cannot see any pattern that it happens on a particular day of the month. So I think there is one of the research that showed a result. One of the malware that was the launch attack in a particular day. It was scheduled in a machine. So it was scheduled every, I think, Friday, not the Friday, it's 13th of the month. It's launched an attack in different servers, in different host machines. So we did not see this kind of trends here for our scenario yet. So this is phishing in terms of botnet. There is also we did not find any trend that we can be interested in. So this is checked. So in terms of block traffic, there is also some other type detected. So these are packets that is passed without blocking. Okay. So there are some of the packets are termed as child abuse content. Some are marked as gambling, hacking, illegal downloads, pornography, and others. So these are also identified by the reputation field. So when they find reputation, they also mark what type of packet this is or what type of IP is being used by which type of site. So from that information, they tag this data as different types of attacks. So in terms of malware categories, so we have other malwares, which is as I said, so this is different major types. So other malwares, so this is mixed data, so we cannot differentiate further. So there are, I think, hundreds of malware type defined by the WSA. So we have virus around 5,000. We have this is password user access, and this is encrypted file. So these are in this October 9. So most of the malware cannot be categorized into one category. For November and December, we see similar trends of data. So in most cases, we cannot actually categorize whether this is a virus, PWA, or encrypted file. In most of the cases, we have to categorize it in other categories because the malware type changes every day. So we have new malwares, so we cannot actually categorize it in a specific type. So that's why all those goes to the other category in terms of detection. So this is for January. So we have more attacks, as I said. So because this is for malware, we have more attacks. So we had different types of malware high in the malware detection as well. Okay, so this is combined for the three scenarios. So malware, virus, and PWA. So this is for October only. So as you can see, if you look at the rest of the month, this is almost normal in 3 scenarios. So malware is similar to PWA or virus. But the hike happens when there is an attack comes in on a particular day. And in most cases, as we saw, this comes from malware side attack. And that gives the hike to the malware detection as well. So this is basically a zoom view. So in this case, we have from 2nd October. So we're trying to look at if you remove this spike. This is from October to 31st October. So as you can see, this is malware almost similar to virus. So there's a spike of virus, but in terms of average, they are all almost same. So this is malware categories detected for November. Malware virus. So in November we have also hike in the 23rd. There is also hike on the 15th. For December, there is a huge hike at the beginning of the month, so which is also a malware attack. And in January, we see consecutive attacks on the 8th and 11th. So if you compare all these scenarios, there is actually, we cannot say this is what happens every month. So we cannot say this is the trend. We see similar things every month. There's changes in the attack every month. Even if you look at, we also looked at the data into interval of particular month or also in the particular day. But there is actually, we didn't see any correlation between the time of the day. It is very difficult to find the source of the data and also predict that this attack is going to happen in the next year. So prediction is very difficult in this type of scenarios. So this is malware categories in January. So this is for comparison of malware detected for the whole month. So again, we see in January we have a huge hike, but on other days. So this is what we wanted to see if there is any effect on a particular day. But we could not look at that because the hike actually dishes out all those things. So this is virus detected. I think similar the number of virus. The previous this is about the malware detection, and this is the virus detection. So as you can see, this is in this case January is not the one that is the highest number of virus. We have a hike for virus in October, but after that we see in January we see some virus hike as well. But it's similar random in other months as well. So PWA, unauthorized access. So we see for the December we saw an attack on that. We saw attack in October, some of the attacks. But in other scenarios this is very normal or less than 200 in all cases. So, but this is also an attack. So this attack does, it actually tries to gain access to the server. So that means it tries to gain access with different username and password, like a brute force attack where the system has been password or all those things. So those type of attacks, so it happens but on very low level. The reason being, when you try to guess the password, most of the system they will refuse after certain attempts. So you do it 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, they will not allow it anymore, right? So that is not true for malware. So the malware sites can attack you over and over, and you cannot actually deny it because you do not know that this is a valid site on all these things. So these are some of the malware we found in terms of, if you want to give the names. So these are the generic name that is given when by different antivirus companies or security companies. So there is BVS. This is drops more malware. So these were basic script virus we have chosen. So most of the malwares is termed as malgen. So we saw many of the malwares in this category. But this changed a lot. So anyone actually there's the tools online where you can create your own malware using a signature. So you can take a malgen of 9 and you create your own version of malware attack. And you can just populate or using for attacking something. So this is very easy nowadays to launch attacks. And also that's why this is also becoming very difficult, because you can change the signature of malwares very easily. So that's why I think we heard before in this workshop. So the reason that you need to upgrade your system or upgrade your antivirus exactly for this. If you don't update, you do not get the latest signatures from the system. So these are, there's different types of scenarios. So this is PU attack. There's different terms. I think app.js minor. So these are basically, the name comes from when we see a particular virus name in large volume all over the world. So this comes from actually from antivirus companies. So they create a signature, detect a signature, publish it in their system, also the collaboration there. So from that, Cisco also get those data, and they try to term which type of malware they are detecting in the system. So top 5 threats that was detected, mostly in terms of virus, we see malgen 9. So this was the 77% of the scenarios. So malgen, like it was. This is because in October, this was used to launch the attack. So it's not necessarily it is true for other systems as well. But generally what happens when there is an attack, it doesn't attack only us, it attacks some other systems as well at the same time. So if you could compare attacks from the same sources, we may see that Gen X 9 would be the most attacking malware that is used. We also see the BBS ignore and some other as well. Okay, so for October to December, we also see similar trends. So Gen 9 has 78% of the ratio of all the attacks that we see compared to others. So if you just add these two things, so 77 and 12, so 89, and also here 78 and 11. So that means almost 90% of the attacks comes using these two particular systems. So what it means, the attackers that are launching the attacks, they are basically using these two particular malwares for infection. The reason being, these are the most recent malwares in terms of virus attacks, malware attacks. But even we see the trends over the months as well. So even after October to December, we see similar trends in these scenarios. So this is top threats in October. So we saw, as I said, so we saw malgen very high. The high means that was used for this particular attack. In other days, some was malgen and some was BBS. So on other months, in November we see, again you can see there's malgen is the prevalent, the gray one, and we see some BBS consistently in the green zone, and some other attacks comes from other methods. So this is December, January, so we see almost similar trends of using the same generation of malware. So in terms of reputation score, so we see the Malgen, so this has a reputation score -5.9. So it's almost at the boundary. And Malgen 9 has reputation score of, this is from our we created a database for different malwares and what is the reputation score for those. So we see, this is also interesting, in some cases we see 5, positive 5, not negative. But it was a Malgen. So this is, this is a scenario when it is detected after the scan. So after the reputation, then it is further scan, then it was detected as a secondary malware. Right? So the reputation filter was the purpose of this scenario. So this was very interesting. So Malgen JJ, it has very positive reputation score, and in some scenarios we saw 9.5 of reputation score. So what it means is that some of the packets are actually allowed to the users as valid traffic, but later on, maybe after the attack, reputation score was less, which caused further probe, and then coming to detected and categorize previous packets as well. So in most scenarios, in other malware categories, we see in most scenarios the reputation score actually similar than what we suspect. So if it is a less reputation score, it's most likely to be malware. But there are some exceptional scenarios here as well. Okay, so let's look at some of the geolocation for different types of attacks. So we actually did this using IP address lookup. So from our system, we only can see the IP address from different attacks. So we use a program to identify the locations. So the assumption here is that the IP address is not a spoofed IP address. It's not an altered IP address. So it could be altered. So if it is altered, that means we do not have actually the correct geolocation. So if the IP address is not altered, then this will be the geolocation for different attackers. So this is our geolocations for October. So as we can see, there's a lot of attacks from the Europe region. There's also attacks, this is from China, and there's some attacks from the US region as well. And from the other parts in Africa or Asia, other parts of Asia except China, we see very few attack scenarios in terms of geolocation. Now for November to January, again we see a lot of attacks coming in from the Europe, especially from Germany and France. There's consistent attacks from different locations of the US and China. So we try to find out which are the top countries the attacks comes in. So this is for October. So October we see France, China, US and Russia. These four are actually the most attack originated from here. And there's some attacks from other countries as well. Most of the attacks come from these four countries. And after October, we saw a little bit different change. The China, US, Russia, they are still in the list. But we see new attacks from Germany, and the France goes down the list. And this is because we see the hike that we saw in January. That attack actually came from January. So that's caused the Germany to come in the list. But as you can see, most of the attack comes actually from 3 or 4 countries in the region. And the minority, some of the other attacks comes from other regions. So, we try to see whether there is a correlation on the daily pattern. So we try to plot transaction pattern for exactly the same day. As I said, one of the paper claim there is a attack in the same day. So we plotted the data for 13 October and also for 13 November. So there is actually no clear pattern that we can see that is happening in the same day, because there is a high here in 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, and also in 11 o'clock, but we do not see some similar things here. But I think there's still, a lot of data processing can be done, or data analysis can be done to find if there is a correlation in there. So this is on how many hourly packets. So we do not again see any particular trend in terms of hours. So we wanted to see in a particular hour whether we can find any particular malware being detected. So this was not available there. So in most of the time we see some of the malware detected. So we cannot say this is what happens every day or particular hour of the month. This is for two days. So we try to plot 2 days of data in different hours. Again, we cannot find any particular correlations. Okay, so what's next? So the next goals for us. So the system is actually in place. So we'll continue the data collection for upcoming months as well. We'll also collect data. We have not been able to collect data for education institute yet. So we'll collect data from education institution users, different users. We'll anonymize the data because of the privacy issues. And we'll also share the data with the stakeholders, which includes educational institution partners and other environments. So to summarize, it is very challenging. What we found here is very challenging to provide cloud-based services. Mainly because the amount of data that the system has to process is too large. And even though we have a very strong VMware machine to process the data, even for that, the data is too much in some cases, causing the system to hang in scenarios. So, but CESS, the proposed system, CESS can actually provide additional security. As we saw, it is blocking data. That means if we do not have CESS installed in the system, those data that has been detected as malware would have been passed to the users, and users would have been infected. So by blocking it at the entrance, so we are providing, CESS can provide additional security to the end users. So if we can set it up properly, with enough resources, it can be first barrier for security prevention. So our analysis shows almost 32% of the data packets are attack packets. So you have 100, which is huge. That's almost 1/3 of the packets is attack data, right? And attack escalated from 11% to 46% in 4 months, and which is also a huge escalation of attack scenarios. So we've also found that 3/4 of the attack originated from 4 countries. So those 4 countries are, so it could be fake IPs, but in most scenarios this is the attack comes from the similar IP address. So 3/4 of the attacks are coming from the same countries. And we also saw the botnet detection count is quite low, which also suggests that it is very difficult to detect botnets. So with that, I'll conclude. If there's any questions, I'll have to answer.
The analysis of this traffic, are these from the B2 part or from your local infrastructure here at UNT?
No, so we set it up in the BD2 cloud,
Okay.
and it's open in the internet. So all the data packets comes to the BD2 cloud. So the data is from there. But But we also setting another part here as well, so that we can also look into the package from web part as well. So this is all the traffic that comes into the video. Any other questions? Right, thank you very much.